TRT protocols with Masteron, what I've seen work. So what I want to do here is, listen, we're all looking for, depending on what stage you are in trying to dial in on TRT, what add-ons to bring in, how to situate our protocol so that ultimately we get everything we want from TRT. The anabolism, the energy, the confidence, the masculinity, but also the erections, the libido, the sensation, and the climax. And, you know, though from my perspective, it's relatively easy to dial in any TRT protocol, it's not always the case for everybody that it's easy for them. So sometimes we got to bring in Masteron. Sometimes we got to bring in DHT. Sometimes we have to bring in Primabol. And sometimes we have to bring in Proviron. What I want to do in this video is talk about the TRT protocols that I have seen work with the use of Masteron or drostanolone infused into the TRT protocol for estrogen control, for androgen receptor binding, for estrogen receptor modulation, and ultimately discuss the pro-erectile side of it, when you can make Masteron work, what the protocols are that I've seen work, the caveats of Masteron, because there can be caveats that make it unusable. But if you can get it to work for you, it's fucking awesome. Let's break it down. TRT protocols with Masteron. What do they look like? All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT guidance and sexual dysfunction resolution company. You've got a range of different products right now. Again, coaching is still 50% off. I have booked a great degree of clients, so this is going to go away very soon. Use the coupon code COACHDISCOUNT, and all of the coaching packages are thousands of dollars off right now. You can book me under livecortex.com or on the fact-finding call as soon as tomorrow. Regarding fixing libido and erections on TRT, that is what we do with coaching. Hire me under livecortex.com. We got a range of different products on livecortex.com, and down in the description of this video you can check out, including Source List, which is access to every anabolic you can think of, high potency DHT gel. Go buy it, instant download, livecortex.com. So starting off, drostanolone propionate or Masteron propionate, which usually comes in Masteron prop, so it's a relatively fast-acting Masteron ester. It clears the system pretty quickly. It's about a 24-hour to 36-hour peak, after which it starts troughing. Can get Masteron enanthate, but which would have a longer half-life of 5 to 7 days, but it is a lot less prevalent out there, you know, in the UGLs. Basic description is drostanolone propionate or dromastanolone propionate, sold under the brand name Drolban, Masteril, and Masteron, among others, is an androgen and anabolic steroid medication which was used to treat breast cancer in women, but now is no longer marketed as such. So, I mean, right off the bat, like, the whole purpose of using Masteron in a TRT protocol is to control estrogen. I'll just make that statement, right, so folks are very clear. And that's via some estrogen receptor modulatory properties and some aromatase inhibition properties that are mild but noticeable enough. Now, like, regarding some of the things that we would be worried about, acne, hair loss, you are prone to that on Masteron, so keep that in mind. Most DHT derivatives can produce that effect, with the exception of Anavar, which really does not do that. Primabol is a little more mild in that regard. I'd say of the DHT derivatives we discussed, Masteron, Primo, Anavar, Proviron, regarding hair loss, Masteron and Proviron are the most aggressive offenders, so just keep that in mind. Again, as you guys know, but if you didn't, it's a poor substrate for 3-alpha-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. This is one of the enzymes that breaks down dihydrotestosterone or DHT like molecules in your body so that you clear them from the system. But with it being a poor substrate for this, it keeps it around longer and has a much more anabolic effect at the skeletal tissues. That's why Masteron is technically like considered an anabolic steroid. It's more anabolic than it is androgenic, and a lot of bodybuilders use Masteron for the dry, hard look that it gives you. Elimination half-life of the drug via the route of administration intramuscularly, which is how you would take Masteron, is 2 days. So again, it's like prop. You know, if you were to use test prop with Masteron as your estrogen control, then you'd really have a pretty even, in terms of half-life, protocol that ends up making a lot of sense, just as an aside for folks. Now, looking through the literature on this, it's actually hard to find mechanistically clear evidence of what Masteron is doing to the estrogen receptors or estrogen in general, but we know it was initially used to reduce incidence of breast cancer and to treat it, and it would do that via antagonizing estrogen receptors. There are companies out there that are basically chemicals companies that have full scientific breakdowns of certain compounds. And they got a breakdown of Masteron, and they suggest that drostanolone enanthate or prop in whatever case, binds irreversibly to estrogen receptors, preventing estradiol-mediated transcriptional activation, which would make sense that it may be useful in the treatment of breast cancer. So, I mean, in the context of TRT, that would mean kind of like all DHT itself and generally most DHT derivatives, that you've got inhibition of the gene transcription of estradiol. So it might not actually stop estrogen from binding to the receptors. It might not lower the serum in estradiol, but it's going to stop some of that estrogen-like gene expression and therefore effects. Let's talk about the necessity to keep estradiol controlled or E2 in your range. Now, on regular TRT, if you're using an aromatase inhibitor, which will affect the actual estradiol a blood number, you want to keep estrogen between 20 and 35 generally. I just think everybody should shoot to get there and then adjust accordingly. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. If estrogen's at 55, 65, you're more likely to have erection issues, libido issues, sensation issues, and climax issues. Yeah, I've been coaching for a long time on TRT, and I never see people that have perfect sexual function or even great sexual function when estrogen isn't in their range. So we've been over this 1,000 times. You got to have estrogen where you need it to be. Now, in the forums, you're going to see a lot of stuff like this. TRT plus added Masteron. What are people's experiences with this? And you'll see people discuss the anti-estrogen effect. Here's a comment. I'm using it mainly for its anti-estrogen benefits. It also has other good things going on for it, like cutting, etc. Last year, this one added 100 milligrams a week to 200 milligrams of TRT. We're going to get to doses here in a second, and felt unbelievable. My wife was loving how horny I was. Did mess with my lipids though a bit. Another thread, Masteron on TRT, what should I expect? First comment was amazing for me. Even at 140 milligrams a week, I had E2 problems. So this is a guy on 140 of presumably cypionate or enanthate had estradiol problems. It's not uncommon. Gyno issues. 3 weeks in, and I've stopped my Arimidex and Nolvadex completely. All discomfort is gone. Can't even see it. It was better than any AI or SERM for me. Boosted libido, and unlike any other gear I've done now, I didn't get an attitude. So the gear makes them a little testy, and this didn't do that. More energy, better lifts, and no E2 problems. Feel amazing. Another one. Why does Masteron make you feel so good? Increases sex drive and confidence. Does it increase dopamine? And then you got kind of the crux of the issue there. Guy in the comments goes, it makes me feel awesome for about 2 weeks. Insane libido, confidence, and aggression. That is coupled with a shorter temper, unfortunately. After those 2 weeks, without fail, at any dose, it tanks my E2, and Mr. Johnson becomes a limp gummy worm. Also assassinates my hairline. Assassinates. Love that, bro. So we'll get to the caveats. They just blocked estrogen a little too much here, and that's what you don't want to do with Masteron. All right, so that's the basic gist of it. A lot of people have success adding Masteron to TRT. I have success adding Masteron to TRT to some clients where they need a DHT derivative or something that inhibits estradiol to some extent in order to dial in, because they just need to be on higher doses, or they prefer to be on higher doses, so we have to make it work. But let me talk about protocols that work. But before I do that, I should say the dose range of Masteron that I've seen with TRT is 35 to 70 milligrams a week. That's it. Yeah, you go above 70, and if you want to set it and forget it dose of Masteron, you're going to end up, in my experience at least, crushing estrogen too much at the gene expression level to where you feel like you've got low E2, you have low E2 symptoms, and then the sexual function starts to go awry. If you're going to dose Masteron with TRT, in my opinion, preferably make it Masteron propionate. Again, a 48-hour half-life. It's pretty much cleared from the system after 3 days, 4 days. You might have a little bit left. And with that said, let's run through some protocols. This assumes that you're on 150 to 200 milligrams of testosterone a week. That's where Masteron really makes the biggest difference. And in those dose ranges of 150 to 200 tests, it's the only situation in which it really makes sense. Masteron's very powerful at blocking estrogen, folks. So, you don't want to be running 120 of tests a week and then you've got some Masteron there. You're just going to crush the estrogen side of things, and things aren't going to be good. So let's take an example protocol of 150 milligrams of testosterone cypionate per week, doing daily injections, but still estrogen's at 55. Your dick is not working the best that it can. Your libido might be okay, but it could be better, and you need to improve upon sexual function. So the lowest dose here of 35 milligrams a week, I know that sounds like a low dose, but believe me when I tell you that too much Masteron is going to fuck everything up. That would be 5 milligrams a day. So you're on 150 a test, you're doing daily injections, E2 is a little high. You start at 5 milligrams a day of Masteron. It's 35 milligrams a week. That there is one of the TRT protocols with Masteron that I've seen work specifically for fixing erection issues for folks on 150, 200 that aren't taking AIs, but that's estrogen is high. Let's say you're on the higher end of the testosterone dose at 180 or 200 or 210 or 250. milligrams of testosterone cypionate per week. However you're injecting that. This is where 70 milligrams a week of Masteron propionate has proven useful in my coaching experience. And simply, we're using Masteron prop, and it's 10 milligrams a day, equaling 70 milligrams a week. It just seems to provide enough of the estrogen blocking effect to where people dial in. I mean, again, the recipe for dialing in on TRT is functional testicles, E2 in your range, or at least a somewhat limited genetic expression of estradiol, so your body feels like the E2 is in range, although the numbers could still be higher in the case of Masteron, and enough DHT. So at 200 milligrams a week of test and 10 milligrams a day of Masteron, that often gets people, folks that can tolerate Masteron, because not everyone can, in the right zone for sexual function. And the most prominent thing when folks dial in Masteron on TRT that they get that they did not have before bringing Masteron in is stellar erections. Listen, I mean, you want your erections to hurt. You want them to wake you up in the middle of the night, or at least for when you're sleeping and rolling over and you're conscious at 3 a.m. or something, you want to notice that you have an erection that's just sitting there lasting. I mean, if it doesn't have to happen every night, but it should happen most nights, that's what you want on TRT. Believe me. Now, you can have any variation of that in between, maybe 20 milligrams a week, a little on the low end of Masteron, like 10 every 3.5 days is the sweet spot for you. Now, if you're super sensitive to anything that blocks estrogen at the gene expression level, then that might be the route you have to take. Maybe it's in the middle of at 50 milligrams a week of Masteron. So you're dosing something like 7 milligrams Masteron prop a day, equaling 49 milligrams a week. You're at 50 milligrams a week of prop. You know, you're at 150 to 175, maybe 180 of tests per week. That's the dose range that makes sense. Now, if you happen to get Masteron enanthate, that's a different story. This is why I always suggest going with prop when it comes to, DHT derivatives. If you can get Masteron propionate, you're going to have a better time. But if you end up with standalone enanthate, Masteron enanthate, which is out there and is available and is in the UGLs, then you would approach using it and dosing it in a similar way to using an AI, which is the day after your injection. Say you're injecting semi-infrequently every 3.5 days, every 5 days, every 7 days. The day after injection, after some estrogen has peaked, because you do need some of it, that's when you attack it and start reducing, in this case, the gene expression with some Masteron. Again, 35 to 70 milligrams of Masteron enanthate, the day after injection is what suits people in that situation where they're having to use Masteron enanthate and they're injecting infrequently with a cypionate, serves those folks well. Now, all this is good. And if you can dial in Masteron, you're going to have a fucking stellar time. Libido will be crazy. You'll be very aggressive sexually. And erections will be out of this world and stellar. And that's just what you want on TRT no matter what. But there are caveats to using Masteron, particularly when it doesn't work for what you want it to do and it crushes estrogen at the gene expression level too much and you end up with worse sexual function. That can happen too, and that's the caveat. Let's go to Reddit. This is the most prominent one, boys, to exemplify the caveat. Masteron killed my libido and dick. Hi, I am on 120 milligrams testosterone. Again, like I had said, he's on too low of a dose of testosterone to fucking bring Masteron in. Anyway, 1,000 IU HCG test levels were 900, E2 was 55. Was feeling fine until I decided to add Masteron for more libido and did it stupidly and added 120 milligrams of Masteron 3 weeks ago, a 1-1 ratio with test. 3 weeks and it fucked my libido and erections. I wanted to add it because my E2 was slightly elevated. Any tips? I lowered it to 60 milligrams now, or should I just leave it? Yeah, that might end up working for this dude, like lowering to 60 milligrams. That's half the dose that totally messed things up, and it might be just enough estrogen reduction properties that, he dials in. But regarding the caveat, I'm trying to explain to you folks, this is what can happen on Masteron if you're not careful, and if the dose is too high, which is why I've come to conclude that 35 to 75 milligrams a week is the best dose range for it. Just like an AI, it's going to suppress your libido from the brain side, and it can inhibit erections too, because you do need estrogen receptor binding, particularly ERB, in the penis for nitric oxide and blood flow, and thus erection. You can't block it entirely, or you're going to have ED. So, this is exactly what happened in this case. Just too much Masteron. This is why if you're going to dose it, man, you don't want to be sitting at 100 or 110, 120, even 130 of testosterone a week. You're pushing 150 to 200 to 250. That's when you really can bring Masteron in an experiment. Still might kill everything, because you're sensitive to the inhibition of aromatase, or you're sensitive to the blocking of estrogen at the gene expression level. Some people are like that. They just can't take anything DHT derivative, anything that messes with estrogen. But if you're going to do it and you are one of those people that does respond well to Masteron, ensure you have higher doses of test and you don't go crazy on Masteron. I've seen all these ideas of the 1-1 ratio. This is what this guy is saying here. 120 a test, 120 a Masteron. This often does not work, okay? So fair warning for folks, if you want to use Masteron, the idea of the 1-to-1 ratio, I've not seen it bear out in reality as being effective. I've seen it cause problems more often than not. Guy in the comments goes, drop it for now. Just get it out of there, brother. You can always bring it back into super dose, low dose later if you want to try it again. I agree with that. I agree. I think the guy's initial dose reduction to 60 milligrams of Masteron a week is a good start, but still, only at 120 milligrams a test, this guy is, it's still probably a little bit too much Masteron, man. I mean, you can try that and see, but this is a case in which you might want to use, like 15 milligrams a week. You might want to be microdosing 3 milligrams a day or some shit like that. You're at 21 milligrams a week. That's how you make Masteron work at the lower doses. If you're that low, though, at 120, you might as well just take it down to 112 and get estrogen in range. So that's basically it. Does everybody need to use Masteron? No. I mean, there's plenty of ways to skin the cat of TRT protocols to dial in sexual function. Are people going to find that, like, because they enjoy the higher doses and the anabolism of 150 to 200 to 250 milligrams a test, that Masteron, if they can dial it in, is the key to dialing in? Yes, a lot of the time it is. Now, it's either aromasin, primobolan, or it's Masteron. You need to be conservative with the usage of it and the dosing of it. And don't execute the 1-1 ratio because you saw it on a steroid form or you've seen it on Reddit. Oftentimes that is too much Masteron for people. Yeah, I mean, you're not on a steroid cycle. If you're trying to do something with your physique, okay, great. And it fucks your dick up, try to adjust otherwise, but maybe just accept that. Get your physique benefits, and then, go back to TRT and get your sexual function straight after that. It is a useful compound to have in the arsenal in case you need it. Stick with the dose ranges on TRT of 35 to 70 milligrams a week. Get Masteron propionate if you can manage it. And if you can dial it in, meaning if you can tolerate stuff that blocks estrogen at the gene expression level or inhibits aromatase, it's going to give you better erections and it's going to give you very aggressive libido. However, not everyone can dial in Masteron. Not everyone can dial in primobolan. Not everyone can dial in AIs. And a lot of people have a lot of trouble dialing in specifically libido erections. That's the hardest thing to do on TRT. It isn't difficult for me. This is a science. But for folks that haven't been doing this for years, and especially like with the convoluted information on Reddit, it can be difficult. This is what we do regarding coaching. I'll bring you on board. We'll situate the protocol in a way where libido and erections come back to youthful levels. That's what you want, and this is not hard to achieve. It just takes the right approach, and sometimes it takes time. Right now, coaching, all coaching packages, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, they're 50% off. The code is on the screen. It's coach discount. You enter that at checkout. It takes thousands of dollars off. You can book me under minutelivecortex.com. Then we start. You've got me for 3 months, 6 months, a year, even a month. If you want to start, start to dial in. For folks that have PFS, as you see on the website, you can go read livecortex.com. The link's down below. I've been working with PFS folks for a long, long time. We added a couple new options, a Telegram consult, okay? It's a Telegram consult with me where you can send me your situation and I will message you back on Telegram. We also added a 30 minutes call option on the website as well. Those don't apply. The discount doesn't apply to those. You'll pay full price for those, but for everything else, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, it's 50% off right now. Book me livecortex.com. Let's go. Source list. Again, any anabolic you can think of, including the high potency DHT stuff. You could need to circumvent in your clinic sometimes. A lot of folks that are just having a hell of a time dialing in go end up getting DHT, Proviron, Masteron, Primobolan, other compounds, and then they're dialed in, right? Because here in the States, the clinics are just not going to offer everything that you might need to fully dial in specifically sexual function. You get sourcelesslifecortex.com. It's always good to have. You can get anything you can think of, including peptides. And HCG for a lot cheaper. If you want to dial in on Cypionate regarding libido and erection, I created a video course called Mastering Testosterone Cypionate specifically for that, and you can get that down below as well. All right, we've reached the conclusion of the video. Thanks for listening. Last week I was busy all week, so content this week, and sub to the channel because, God, I'm having an aneurysm or something. Hold on. Can't even think. What is wrong with this chair? God. Damn it. Like the video, boys. sub to the channel would really make a big difference to me. It'd make a difference if you could hear me, I guess. You just grab the mic. Give me this! God. It's like a month in a row this has been happening. The video's over. Been a pleasure hanging out with you boys. Hope you had a great weekend. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I will be pumping out more content this week, so please look forward to that. Like the video, makes a huge difference. Like the video, bro. Okay, it really does help the channel grow and get out to more people, which they need and we would love. Sub to the channel. So much more content around TRT, specifically in solving libido and erection issues in the past and forever in the time continuum. I'd love to have you on board. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on, enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll talk to you boys on the next one.